Benjamin's life began with pain, his birth marked by the tragic death of his mother Rachel. Jacob, his father, had loved Rachel deeply, and her death was a blow that shattered him. As Benjamin took his first breaths, his mother's last whispered words lingered in the air, her final breath echoing through the desert night. She had named him Benoni, meaning son of my sorrow, a name that would haunt him, even if it was never spoken aloud by his father. For Jacob there was no room for sorrow. He had already lost his beloved Rachel, and now Benjamin, his son, would carry the weight of her memory. Jacob looked at his newborn son, tears in his eyes, his heart heavy with grief. But despite the pain there was a flicker of hope. In the midst of tragedy, Jacob renamed him Benjamin, meaning son of my right hand, a name that would symbolize both strength and love, even though Benjamin's existence was shadowed by grief. Jacob would never forget Rachel, but Benjamin, the last of his sons, became his anchor in a world that was crumbling. As Benjamin grew, so did the tension in Jacob's family. His brothers, the sons of the other wives, were not so kind to him. In their eyes, Benjamin was just another reminder of their father's broken heart, and the hatred they held for their younger brother grew with each passing day. But Benjamin, too young to understand the complexity of family hatred, only saw his father's devotion, his unwavering protection. Life in Jacob's house was never easy. Joseph, Benjamin's older brother, was his father's favorite, and the jealousy between the siblings ran deep. Joseph was different too. His dreams were strange, unsettling, and his brothers could not bear to listen to his boasting. "I had a dream," Joseph would say, "that we were all in the field binding sheaves of grain. My sheaf stood upright, and your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to it." The brothers' anger festered, reaching a boiling point when Joseph's dream grew even more ominous. "The sun and moon and 11 stars bowed down to me," he said, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and confusion. The resentment in the air was palpable, but Joseph, unaware of the danger lurking around him, continued to speak of his dreams. The brothers could no longer bear to listen. They had been consumed by their jealousy, and their hatred for Joseph was beyond control. One day when Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers in the fields, they saw their chance. The plan was simple: tear him down, take him away, and make sure their father would never know the truth. "Here comes the dreamer," one of the brothers shouted as they saw Joseph approaching. The moment Joseph arrived, they grabbed him, threw him into a pit, and debated what to do next. Benjamin, just a child at this time, could not fathom the depth of the betrayal. He was too young to understand the jealousy and hatred that had twisted his brothers' hearts. But he felt the shift in the air when Joseph did not return. He felt the sadness when his brothers' faces grew darker, their conversations more guarded. Benjamin's life would change forever in the years to come, though he had no idea that the ripple of his brothers' actions would touch him in ways he couldn't imagine. It was not long after Joseph's disappearance that a famine struck the land. The family was forced to make a difficult decision: survive by going to Egypt, where food was rumored to be plentiful. Jacob, now desperate, sent his sons on a journey to the foreign land. But this time Jacob's love for Benjamin would make the trip even more complicated. He couldn't bear to send Benjamin, the son of his sorrow and his joy, into the unknown. He held Benjamin close, his heart torn between his love for his youngest son and his fear of losing him. "Do not take my son Benjamin," Jacob warned, his voice thick with emotion. "I cannot lose him too." But the famine had reached its peak, and the brothers, without a choice, left for Egypt, with Jacob's reluctant blessing. As the brothers arrived in Egypt, they were taken to Joseph's court, though they did not recognize him. Joseph, now a powerful ruler in Egypt, had become a stranger to them. He knew them immediately, but he kept his identity hidden. He saw his brothers standing before him, hungry and desperate, and his heart twisted. The past flooded back, memories of betrayal, hurt, and anger. But there was something else now, a sense of justice. A chance to see if his brothers had changed. Joseph's first test was subtle. He accused his brothers of being spies, and when they protested, he demanded that one of them stay behind as proof of their honesty. The brothers, fearing for their lives, agreed to the terms. Benjamin, as the youngest, was left behind with their father, who was filled with fear and worry. Jacob, now desperate, reluctantly allowed Benjamin to leave again, his heart heavy with the decision. "I cannot lose Benjamin," Jacob said, his voice trembling. "Please bring him back to me." The stakes had never been higher. Benjamin's fate was now tied to the choices of his brothers. Joseph's plan to test his brothers, though cruel, was necessary. He needed to know if they had changed, if they could be trusted, if they were capable of redemption. The tension grew as the brothers returned, and the inevitable confrontation loomed. Would Benjamin be forced to carry the burden of his family's past sins? Or would this be the moment when they all found a path toward healing? As Benjamin's brothers returned to Egypt with heavy hearts, they did not yet understand the full weight of their actions. Joseph, still hidden behind the veil of his Egyptian title, continued his game of testing. The brothers had grown tense under his scrutiny, and Benjamin, the innocent and trusting soul, could feel the pressure mounting. He was caught in a world of uncertainty, the same uncertainty that had always loomed over his life. How could he ever know peace when the weight of his family's sins lay so heavily upon him? Joseph's challenge, though cruel, was a test of loyalty, a test of character. "The youngest will remain here while the others go home," Joseph declared coldly, his voice filled with hidden emotion. The brothers, desperate and terrified, returned to their father with news that was almost too much for Jacob to bear. They had come to Egypt for food, and now their youngest brother, Benjamin, was being held hostage. "You will not take him." Jacob's voice cracked. "I have already lost one son. Now you would ask me to lose Benjamin too." His face grew pale as the weight of the situation threatened to crush him. His grief was palpable. How could he risk losing another child? Was his fate to always lose those he loved most? The brothers, now at their wits' end, pleaded with their father. "We cannot go back without Benjamin, father. We will die here in Egypt without food. The man has demanded him." The truth was painful to admit, but they had no choice. Their survival depended on it. Jacob's resolve, once firm, began to falter. The famine had ravaged the land, and Jacob knew they had no choice. But how could he bear to part with Benjamin, the boy who was the last piece of Rachel, the love of his life? He had promised Rachel in her final moments that he would take care of Benjamin, and yet now, it seemed the universe was testing him, asking him to sacrifice yet another piece of his heart. The decision to send Benjamin back to Egypt weighed heavily on Jacob. As he kissed his son goodbye, he whispered, "May God have mercy on you, my son." But the fear in his eyes was clear. "If I lose you, I lose everything." Benjamin was caught in the chaos, unaware of the deep emotional battle his father was facing. He simply did what was asked of him, trusting that this time things would be different. His innocence was both his strength and his vulnerability. Benjamin did not know that Joseph, now standing as the ruler of Egypt, was about to reveal himself to his brothers in a way that would change everything. When the brothers returned to Joseph's court, they were greeted not with anger, but with a familiar presence. Joseph, now disguised in his Egyptian garb, stood before them, his face unreadable. His heart was heavy with the truth he had yet to reveal. He watched his brothers tremble before him, not knowing that their worst fear was about to be realized. The moment Joseph revealed himself was electric. The tension in the room was unbearable as the brothers stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. "I am Joseph, your brother," he said, his voice steady but filled with the weight of the years they had spent apart. For a moment, silence reigned. The brothers could not speak. Their world had been turned upside down in an instant. "Do not be angry with yourselves," Joseph continued, his voice softer now but still firm. "It was not you who sent me here but God." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "For two reasons. One, to save our family from the famine. And two, to set in motion the destiny of our people." Benjamin, standing in the back of the room, felt his heart race. The revelation hit him like a wave, and for the first time in his life, he realized that he had been part of something far larger than he had ever understood. He had been caught in a web of destiny, woven by forces he could not see. And now, as the truth unfolded before him, he realized that his life, the life of the son born in sorrow, was destined for something far greater than mere survival. The conflict between Joseph and his brothers had finally come to a resolution, but it was not the end of Benjamin's journey. In the aftermath of Joseph's revelation, the brothers wept together, their bonds mended by truth and forgiveness. The darkness of the past was lifted, and the family stood together, stronger than ever before. But for Benjamin, the true weight of his destiny was just beginning to take shape. Joseph's words were still echoing in Benjamin's mind, "God has brought me here to save you, to preserve our people." Those words would haunt him for the rest of his life. Benjamin, once a young boy born in sorrow, now stood on the precipice of greatness, a witness to the divine plan that had unfolded in ways no one could have predicted. As the brothers returned to their father with the news that Joseph was alive and well, Jacob's heart swelled with joy. The reunion of the family was a miracle, a moment of redemption that no one had seen coming. But even in this moment of triumph, Benjamin felt a lingering question in his heart. How could a son born in sorrow become a symbol of strength for an entire nation? What part of him, the boy who had been cast aside, would now lead Israel to its greatest victories. The truth was simple. Benjamin was not just the son born in sorrow. He was the son who would rise from that sorrow to shape the future of an entire people. And though he had no idea what lay ahead, Benjamin was about to become a key figure in the story of Israel's future. His tribe would become one of the most important in the history of the people of God. But there was one more thing that Benjamin had yet to discover. His legacy would not end with his own death. His descendants would carry on his name and play a pivotal role in the survival of Israel. And though he was born in the shadow of loss, he would live to see his tribe rise to glory, with kings and warriors emerging from his lineage. The years passed, and Benjamin's life continued in the shadow of the extraordinary events that had defined his early years. His tribe, though small, grew to be a powerful force in Israel, contributing leaders, warriors, and even kings. Saul, Israel's first king, emerged from the tribe of Benjamin, a testament to the strength and legacy that had been born from sorrow. But for Benjamin, this was not just a historical footnote, it was a legacy of survival, redemption, and strength. Benjamin's legacy was one of resilience. He had been born in sorrow, yes, but that sorrow did not define him. He had been a part of a story much larger than himself, a story that would echo through the centuries. As he looked at the growing power of his tribe, he understood that the trials of his past had not been in vain. Every loss, every moment of fear, had been part of a greater plan that he had never fully understood until now. But the pain of his early life still lingered. Even as Benjamin stood at the forefront of his people, he could not forget the loss of his mother, the love of his father, and the betrayal that had torn his family apart. In the quiet moments, he would often find himself wondering if it had all been worth it, if his survival, his rise to prominence, had truly come at too great a cost. Was this my fate? To be the son of sorrow, to be shaped by loss? Benjamin would ask himself in the solitude of his thoughts. Or was I destined for glory because I was meant to lead my people into a future that none of us could have imagined? The questions lingered, unanswered, in his heart. But as he looked out over the land of Israel, he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer the boy born in sorrow. He was a man forged in the fires of pain, a man whose destiny had been written long before he ever took his first breath. Benjamin's rise to glory was not a smooth journey. There were battles to fight, both on the battlefield and within his own heart. The scars of his past, the wounds that had been inflicted by the choices of others, were never fully healed. But Benjamin did what he had always done, he carried on. The conflict within Benjamin continued, just as it had in his youth. Could he ever truly escape the shadow of his past? Could he find peace in the legacy that had been thrust upon him? Was he merely a product of his circumstances, or could he be the architect of his own future? In the end, Benjamin realized that his story was not one of mere survival. It was a story of transformation. He had been born in sorrow, yes, but that sorrow had been the catalyst for his greatest triumphs. He had been shaped by the pain of his past, but that pain had not broken him, it had made him stronger. As Benjamin's life drew to a close, he looked back on the journey he had taken. From the son of Jacob, loved but overshadowed by his brothers, to the leader of a mighty tribe, Benjamin had come a long way. His destiny had been uncertain, his path fraught with challenges and heartache. But in the end he had found his place in the world, and he had done so with honor. I was born in sorrow, Benjamin thought in his final days, but I have lived for glory, and my legacy will live on through my children, through my tribe, through the generations to come. The future of Israel was secure, and Benjamin's legacy was now etched into the fabric of history. His tribe, once small and vulnerable, had become one of the pillars of the nation. And though Benjamin himself was gone, his impact lived on. The kings, the warriors, and the leaders who came from his lineage were a testament to the power of resilience, of rising from the ashes of pain to become something greater. The son born in sorrow is destined for glory, Benjamin had come to believe. And in his final moments he understood the full meaning of those words. He had been given a second chance at life. A life that would leave a mark on the world, a mark that would endure long after he was gone. Benjamin's story was not one of ease, but of triumph over adversity. It was a story of survival, of redemption, and of strength that could only come from the deepest pain. And as his tribe continued to thrive, Benjamin's name became synonymous with the legacy of Israel itself. A legacy born from sorrow but destined for glory. And so, the story of Benjamin, the son born in sorrow, became a story of hope, a story of the unexpected power that comes when we rise from the ashes of our past and step into the glory of our destiny. You may be born in sorrow, Benjamin had once said, but if you hold on, if you keep fighting, glory will find you.